Zenith.
Greetings and salutations to the fans. Welcome into this weekend edition of the G-1 Champions League. Hope you've enjoyed your weekend so far, and it's about to get a lot better with this matchup ahead of us. DK taking on Zenith, another grudge match here in Phase 3. We'll get to that in a minute, but we've got a tale of two teams coming in two very different situations. Zenith enters play today fresh off of two big wins in Phase 2 over First Departure and the upstart Neolution Thai squad, but more importantly, they're a machine that's humming and purring when most of the teams in the field are just now beginning to shake off some rust. It's no exaggeration to say they're firing on all cylinders. They haven't dropped a game, let alone an entire series, throughout this entire month. Throughout all of March, they have yet to drop a single game. They've put together an 8-0 record featuring 11 straight game wins. Looking back to 2012, though, one loss Zenith suffered immediately comes to mind, and it's that which they suffered in Seattle to Team DK, knocking them out of the International 2. They've got a mountain of momentum behind them, and they're going to need every ounce of it as they face their toughest challenge in 2013 today. A win, though, will not only give them a sweet taste of revenge and add another notch to their kill list, but it will help establish them as one of the most fearsome teams on the planet. Now, DK, the legendary squad led by the living legend known as Burning, finds themselves in quite an opposite set of circumstances. They haven't seen action since December of last year when they were bounced from the G League group stage by LGD China. Now, since then, Burning has vowed both publicly and privately to get his ship heading in a better direction. And they find themselves on familiar ground now, and this could be their first major step in that better direction. DK's second-place finish in the last season of G1 League still stands as their only notable achievement following their fourth-place finish at the International 2, and their only achievement following the loss of Long DD and Zippo in October of last year. Now, today is nothing short of trial by fire as Burning and Team DK look to make their return to competitive Dota against the absurdly talented team of Zenith. But what better way for the living legend to begin the final chapter of his career, as earlier, actually, it goes back to last year, following the conclusion of the International 2, Burning announced that this would be his last year at competitive Dota. Following the International 3 to be held here in 2013, he has announced he will retire. So this is his first match since then, his first match back with his Team DK squad, and they're going to be looking to get off to a great start here in this brand new year. The bans and the picks moving quite quickly. We can see Bad Rider and Magnus taken out by DK. Lifestealer and the Lone Druid banned out by Zenith. Can't say I'm too surprised to see the LD pick. Saw Lone Druid lose for the first time, I want to say in a month or more, just yesterday. Other than that, though, it has seemed like whoever got Lone Druid tended to come out the winners of that game in respective series. So seeing him banned out by Zenith, no surprise. Lifestealer, of course, another extremely high-value carry hero and in the mid-game with some late-game potential. The bans on the side of DK, obviously, just those gigantic playmakers out of the mid position, the solo mid position 9 times out of 10. In the Bad Rider and the Magnus. And how about we just jump straight to that last pickup here in Phase 1, Anti-Mage, drafted by DK. Many fanboys across the planet all of a sudden squealed in joy as Anti-Mage going to be played by one of the signature players who has made that hero world famous for his potential to just get ahead and stay ahead. Burning, without a doubt, going to be on his marquee hero here today. Looking at the rest of the picks and the bans on both sides, Nyx Assassin, Keeper of the Light, Tinker, very solid out of Zenith, and that means they're going to have some massive anti-push. Basically, it's going to be almost impossible for DK to really begin to take the fight to Zenith if Zenith is in position. If they have the Tinker there, if they have the Keeper of the Light there, Illuminate plus March of the Machines makes it impossible to fight under the enemy's tower and to push towers effectively with any sort of real reliable potential. Darkseer, Rubik, the pickups for Team DK to go along with that Anti-Mage. Doesn't get a whole lot more solid than that. Anti-Mage, of course, 99 times out of 100, just going to want his defensive tri-lane, going to want to get off to a good start to stay safe. And Rubik, a fantastic defensive pick in that regard. Just having the Rubik there to make the enemy think twice about playing aggressive, using telekinesis to punish any kind of poor positioning, to punish coming a little bit too far forward on the other side. Makes it extremely difficult, even for an offensive tri-lane, to really try to do any apply any concerted pressure to a tri-lane, even one with an Anti-Mage who is not known as the absolute strongest early lane carry. Darkseer, of course, the versatility that hero brings you, well documented. He can run mid, he can run long lane, he can run just about anywhere, including in the jungle. A deceptively fast jungler who kind of starts off a little bit slow, but once he gets a stack or two on the heavy camp, he can throw his ion shell onto one of the heavy jungle creeps, and all of a sudden he's just picking up golden levels like it's nobody's business. The Nyx Assassin pickup from Zenith, no surprise to see that he was first picked in this situation. Nyx Assassin, a hero just really highly valued by a number well, I shouldn't even say a number, by pretty much every team on the planet, no matter their geographic location. A hero that can apply pressure in a one-on-one way. He's great at ganking early on, moving in small packs of 2 and 3 to try and take smaller skirmishes to free the map up, to give your carries room, so on and so forth. He actually does really well in team fights, too, and that's one of the things that makes the hero so unique. A lot of heroes that have a skill set like Nyx Assassin with a lot of single-target damage output tend to really only shine in smaller engagements and then fall off heavy and big team engagements. But because of Spike Carapace, the way that it works and how big of a liability that is to heroes that have any kind of AoE spell or ability, that includes Darkseer, that includes Rubik, and so on and so forth. Pretty much every hero, one way or another, has some AoE that is a liability when the Nyx Assassin's on the board, not to mention Impale. It's really not that hard to catch 2 or 3 heroes with a well-placed Impale, so he works extremely well in terms of pure crowd control. But anyway, moving through the bands, we can see the carries taken out by DK. They're going to take out the Phantom Lancer, the Gyrocopter. The Lycan band's actually really fascinating to me, and when I look at what Zenith already has, it does make sense. It just means that DK does not want to be pushed down while Anti-Mage is farming. They want Burning to not be on a clock any more than he already is, just by virtue of how the hero works. Taking out the Gyro and the Phantom Lancer makes a ton of sense, just in regard to the fact that Anti-Mage is now going to be almost guaranteed to outcarry any other hero they could pick up. Luna, still a very high-value carry if Zenith wanted to go in that direction. But with the Gyro and the Phantom Lancer gone, and now with the Lycan out, Lycan synergy with Keeper of the Light and with Tinker in particular would have given them a massive amount of split push. And instead of having to deal with that, they're trying to really euchre Zenith into a corner so far as what they can do with their lineup. And Keeper of the Light and Tinker, they're going to be able to push, but mainly anti-push at this stage. They really needed another hero, and I really like the Lycan ban as well as the Gyro and Phantom Lancer bans just to make life a little bit more easy for Anti-Mage in the ultra-late stages. Beastmaster picked up from DK. Now, that should be... I mean, looking at the way they want to do this, it really doesn't matter what hero they run mid or run long. I actually would really like to see Beastmaster end up in mid lane this time around, just because of the mobility that's built into Zenith. I talked briefly about Nyx Assassin, his ability to begin moving around the map quite a bit early on in the game. Then you're going to have the mobility that comes with Tinker, of course, having Boots of Travel. That's an item he'll be rushing out to make sure he's just a presence all over the map. Keeper of the Light, able to teleport heroes around via his ulti, so on and so forth. Having the Beastmaster there to get some early levels in mid, soak up some farm, get a little bit ahead, more than likely maxing Call of the Wild, and just having the Boar and the Hawk will give them a lot of vision. That it's not a direct counter in any way, shape, or form to what Zenith is going to be able to do, but it's certainly a mitigating factor. It's something that's going to help them deal with the mobility, with the pressure that an inherently mobile lineup like Zenith happens to be bringing to bear here. So wouldn't be surprised to see that be the case and see Darkseer either wind up in the jungle, sacking the long lane entirely, or possibly just going to the off lane, hanging around as long as he can, and then maybe after that moving into the jungle. We'll have to wait and see, though. Tiny is the pickup from Zenith, so Zenith taking a play from Lanham and the former eHome squad. You know, I try to always search out the storylines in a lot of these games, and again, this is a revenge match for Zenith, DK, the team that gave them their exit from the International 2. And anytime I think the International 2 and I see Tiny, got to think of Landham, got to think of eHome, because that was probably the most fun game I've ever broadcasted in my entire life. But moving on, Enchantress will be the last pickup from DK. Now that tells me that they're really confident they're not going to be under any pressure in a tri-lane whatsoever. They're going to be able... I mean, Enchantress can offensively tri-lane, make no mistake about it. But seeing that pickup here, that just strikes me as a hero that they're going to run in the defensive position and just do everything they can to use her to apply pressure elsewhere on the map to begin freeing things up for Burning as the game continues to develop. Now, on the side of Zenith, again, they've got a lot of mobility. And the way that Keeper of the Light's going to be able to bounce Tiny around, going to help his farm quite a bit. Anti-Mage versus Tiny in the ultra late game is actually really interesting because, well, I mean, it's Tiny with his massive amount of cleave, even much more so than Anti-Mage even with the Battle Fury. He's actually much more of a liability than an Anti-Mage is so far as pure 1 versus 5 potential. But Anti-Mage with the bonus damage that's going to come off of Mana Break, you never can really underestimate that. And this is just going to be a race, really. This is going to be a race where both teams are going to be wanting to find their farm very early on. They're not going to be wanting to waste a lot of time. But this is just such an even draft. I mean, I keep looking at it, trying to figure out who I would want to give the edge in lanes or to give the edge in anything else. I mean, looking at the lanes, it honestly could be offensively tri-lane by Zenith. I don't feel like that's going to be what happens at all. but it very well could be. And actually, I don't know. I mean, the Invoker and the Tinker both really want to have a solo lane experience. They both really want to be in good positions in that regard. They could end up safe laning the Tinker running the Invoker mid, or even just swapping those around either way, and sticking the Tiny, the Nyx, and the Keeper of the Light into an offensive tri-lane position. That would allow them to apply a lot of pressure to DK, especially following that Enchantress pickup. Enchantress, I mean, she's going to be great coming out. And in fact, in terms of just pure ability to add to a fight early on, in the very early stages of a game, Enchantress even better than Chen in that regard, just because of the strength of Enchant and the fact that she's able to get a whole horde of creeps together much more quickly than Chen can. But with the Rubik there, it does make it very chancy for Zenith if they want to go that direction. But Darkseer, Beastmaster, again, the heroes that would seem to be in the exact same situation as an Invoker and a Tinker, heroes that want a solo lane are going to be looking to find a solid solo lane matchup. Lots of pings everywhere, and looks like we are going to be getting back underway. But I'm really, really interested to see how they're going to wind up laning this out on both sides. And I feel like either team could really get an advantage in a try-on-try, just depending on execution. But Burning is not a hero that you want to be up against, excuse me, not a player you want to be up against on an Animage. He just gets this hero. There's a reason why Animage is considered to be his most signature hero, the hero that he is most well known for. We are going to have two heading down here for now. Keeper of the Light is actually moving towards top for the moment, joining up with XY. And that makes sense as well if they just anticipate the Enchantress is going to be out of the lane for the majority of the time. And, you know, running just a 2-1-2 here is going to allow them to apply a little bit of pressure and try to force some kind of movement coming out of the other squad. So while we have time, how about we run through our lineups? Taking a look at Freedom, we can see he's going to be handling our Keeper of the Light. On the side of Zenith, Ice will be playing on our Nyx Assassin. We're going to have Yamate, also known as NWP, running on our NWP, I should say, running on our Rockman, on our Tiny. Ice Cubed, handling our multicolored Invoker. Come on, man. Get some fashion sense here, bro. Can't be running the red with the purple. It doesn't work. And Tinker, going to be handled by XY. On the other side of the river, we're going to have Burning, the one most of you showed up to see, handling your Animage, a hero most of you showed up to see him play. We're going to have XB playing on our Darkseer. Not sure exactly who that is. We're going to have Q, also known as QQQ, playing on our Enchantress. Beastmaster will be played by ROTK. He is setting up shop in mid. And we're going to have X handling our Rubik. So far, no blood on the soil. And WP joined by Ice in bottom lane. And now XY rotating back. And I want to see, is he just going to stack Ancients? Or where is he going to wind up here? We've got our Ezalor making his way. Yeah, he's just going to stack Ancients. So yeah, that makes sense to me. I knew both, said before that both of these heroes really crave that solo lane, but really sending him up in this situation is just a death trap if he's not going to have help. And as soon as we saw our Keeper of the Light move his way back down to bottom, him just taking his time, going to be stacking Ancients here, using March of the Machines to bring that down. And that, it sets him back a little bit compared to some other more optimal situations he could be in. But he's still going to be maxing March of the Machines the entire way, so that's something that's going to be working for him. He doesn't have to max some weird skill build to make that work. It's something he was most likely going to be wanting to do in any case. And down here, our Darkseer being run off a bit. He's just about level 2, though, so he has sucked up some experience. But Yamate should have pretty much no problem, if things continue the way they are, getting his farm. Q and X, though, going to make their way down, and we're going to see a Centaur picked up, and they're going to try to get themselves a kill. And we'll see if they're going to be able to do it. Now, the early punching power of an Enchantress I already talked about, and yep, here we go. They're going to see Ice. Or excuse me, just Ice. He is going to be brought back. And can they catch up? No, they can't. Not enough damage, and ow! Big Illuminate actually catches the creeps as well as Q and X. A lot of damage done. That should be enough to ward them off momentarily. We can see XY's made his way over as well, just in case they do intend to continue invading this jungle. Starting out in the defensive position, but now, and I love this rotation out of them. We'll get to that in just a minute. More damage done. That Illuminate right at max range, hitting both X and QQQ. But I love this rotation because it took them about a minute and a half, if even that, to go, you know what? Nobody's here. Burning is going to be left alone. We don't need to be here. So they're just going to find their Darkseer actually killed by a neutral, so taking the quick trip home. But they actually just rotate the Enchantress and the Rubik down here. And guarantee that they're not only going to get their levels, because Enchantress really does work so much better than a Chen in this offensive positioning. They're going to find their levels, but they're also going to be able to apply a lot more pressure to this Tiny, and at the very least free things up for Darkseer to soak up some levels as well. They are going to move their way back over to the west side of the jungle now. XY, not just stacking the Ancients, but also getting himself some jungle farm via Virtue. And wow, they actually just got a first blood with Freedom landing in Illuminate. So Yamate able to track down the Darkseer, and that's just really surprising. Already 2-0. One of those kills, though, of course, the Darkseer who suicided on the creeps, but early start going the way of Zenith so far. And I'll tell you what I love is looking up at the, this is one of the first games in a while, at least here in G1, that we've gotten to see both teams have in-game banners. DK rocking 1100 and Zenith rocking 200. Zenith, though, off to an early lead, and Burning continuing to just do what Burning does. He's got 22 last hits at just 3.5 minutes into this game. His farm very near perfect. X and Q, in the meantime, now rotating their way towards mid. Ice does not have a point into Wex. If he gets caught out here, he's not going to be able to QQ walk away, but he is going to spot X rotating through, so we'll be able to retreat back to safety, at least for the moment. And WP, no slouch in farm himself. He's been under considerably more pressure than Burning, but only 4 last hits short. Taking a look at the levels of the supports, Keeper of the Lights at 2. Nyx Assassin is about halfway to 4, which is great for him. The quicker you can get a Nyx Assassin to a level 6, the quicker that you begin to force your opponents to play a different game of Dota. And just the threat of Vendetta, especially when you're talking about the way it synergizes with heroes like Tiny, who's gonna have that amazing burst potential coming out of the toss avalanche combo in the later stages of the early game and on into the mid game. You really just have to play much more cautiously than you normally want to. You have to play a lot more defensively, and you have to be very careful not to be caught out and isolated, because you could be punished very, very quickly. The mobility inherent in this lineup coming out of the Tinker with his boots of travel that are going to be on the way, certainly. And Ezalor, our Keeper of the Light, able to bounce people around at level 6. That just adds to that. And we're going to have a toss right on to our Darkseer. There's the follow-up. Sunstrike will connect. Beautiful kill. It does not get a lot better than that. What a beautifully executed kill attempt from Zenith. Tossing the Nyx Assassin, getting the Sunstrike coming out of mid, coming off of Ice. And that right there is the sort of thing that whenever people ask what makes a pro player a pro player, it's one thing to be mechanically talented or individually skilled, but the way that a team is able to execute maneuvers like that takes a lot of precision, takes a lot of communication, that's what makes the best the best. And just really beautifully done by Zenith. 3-0 now, their lead. Only 2 of those kills again count. XY is actually doing okay here. He's slowly catching up. He's going to be level 3 shortly, and given he has not had so much as sniffed an ounce of lane farm, that's really not too bad. ROTK going to be joined by QQQ. And our Darkseer now in mid, trying to apply some pressure to Ice. He does have a point into Wex now. He's going to be rewarded. There are the axes. Can they follow it up quickly enough? They can. ROTK takes a lot of damage, but does survive through it. Good gank attempt here from DK. Successful gank attempt. They finally make their way onto the board. Make it 3-1. We're at 6 minutes into this game. Burning continuing to farm. Jeez, 43 last hits at 6 minutes into this game. And yeah, the guy is seriously just about on par for perfect. Just about there. QQQ has returned to the jungle. He's joined by Darkseer as well. Just playing, and look how defensive they're already playing. I was talking about the inherent mobility and just the way that this lineup works out of Zenith, and they're already beginning to show it, and really, most of the skill set that makes that lineup such a threat hasn't even begun to show itself yet. Playing very stable, just wanting to make sure that they do make it to the mid-game without being too far behind. And we are going to have a brief pause, so while we're paused, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us here on One More Game TV 2. I'm EC, broadcasting by myself this morning. All of my co-casting partners couldn't make it out of bed, it would seem. But that's okay. Hopefully you guys are still enjoying your time here. Hope you'll check out the G1 coverage hub, g1.2p.com. You can find articles, interviews, write-ups, the brackets, and the way the phases work, all that fun stuff, as well as your broadcaster hub. You can bounce back and forth between myself, Beyond the Summit, and the Russian casters, if you happen to be a Ruski, who, for whatever reason, is turning into an English stream. You can also interact with us in real time, right in front of the global audience on Twitter. That's right, that Twitter widget. You can talk to us. We always try to tweet and talk to the fans and the viewers in between games and during downtime. So hope you guys will join us there. Make sure you check it out. Make sure you bookmark it. A great way to start your day as we move through Phase 3 of G League Champions League, the Asia qualifier. We're back underway still. Just a few seconds short of 7 minutes, and Burning, though, already up over. And he actually went Midas. He actually built himself a Midas. He's already added a Ring of Health. He's still on par for an extremely quick Battle Fury, despite getting a Midas first. So, big GPN numbers on the way, bruh. And I really don't mind this at all. You don't normally see Animages get Midases. I mean, occasionally you'll see it happen. But you don't see it that often because Animage is such a fast farmer. You usually feel like you don't need that extra GPM to really be effective. But if you're going to go all in on the split push potential, you're going to go all in on the ability of an Animage to just out-farm the entire freaking map, why not get a Midas? And now, ooh, ROTK wound up for the war. They're trying to track him down. He is going to be spotted. There's the roar. And poor XYXY. Going to be caught out. Now the TP. Oh, beautiful Avalanche and the Illuminate. They get one. ROTK going to make a run right into the Sunstrike. Somehow survives. And wow, they actually backed off there. Now finally he does end up dead. But I'm really surprised that they backed off the way they did there. He does end up getting picked off. But 5-2. Zenith looking strong so far. And DK. And in their first return to the competitive Dota scene in 2013, coming up a little bit short so far. At 10 minutes, we'll take our first look at the gold graph, but for right now, Zenith's movement, decision-making, and so on has just been so good. And that, you know, DK, obviously, you see a Tinker like that who's a little under-leveled, you don't want away, but spending a little bit too much time on the enemy side of the map is going to come back and bite you in the butt once in a while, and that's exactly what we saw there. Great TP reactions, the Avalanche up from the low ground to the high ground, and Invoker actually just got himself a kill on Rubik as well. So another kill going the way of Zenith now. 6-2 is now the lead, and Ice is just about level 6. Now, this is honestly one of the bigger factors to me. He's going to be level 6 in about 9 minutes, if even that long. That is a fantastic start, and XY is actually catching up admirably as well. He's almost level 6. Almost level 6 on our Keeper of the Light. The experience is just so good right now for them. And here we go. There's a roar on Ice. The Avalanche is only going to catch one. Nyx Assassin pops Carapace. Now the Illuminate's going to get Darkseer from downtown. Turnaround Impale from the Nyx Assassin. And ROTK has it blow up right in his face. There's the Sunstrike to lock it down. Ice, Ice, Ice playing heavy artillery from that mid lane position. Has been on the money with absolutely every Sunstrike. Ice, beautiful reaction. Had his buddies around to help just in time. Got the Carapace up just in time to keep himself alive. Got the return kill as well, or was a part of the return kill on ROTK. And DK is going to be hinging their hopes on this guy in a big way. I mean, that's no surprise to anyone. You draft an Animage, you give it to Burning. You're saying, you know what, Burning, this is your game to win. But they are losing this early laning phase quite badly. Taking a look at Ice, 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 he's already more than halfway to level 9. His experience is great. We are hitting 10 minutes in now, so let's take our first look at the gold graph. 1,000 gold going the way of DK. That's by pure virtue of Burning's farm. But the experience is actually in favor of Zenith, despite the farm from DK being so much better. Again, mostly on the back of our Animage, as well as the farm potential of the Darkseer and the Enchantress. Ice, Ice, Ice off to a great start. He's got a Midas of his own, so he's going to be looking to hang and bang and try to keep things at least in range in terms of pure farm potential. Here, a Sunstrike that's going to connect, and it caught two. X and ROTK eating the brunt of that damage, forced back. XY continuing to stack these Ancients, continuing to farm these Ancients using his March of the Machines. And back to Burning. Burning is not super far from his Battle Fury. In fact, he's going to have it in about 900 gold, give or take. And WP, in the meantime, has opted to go Phase Drum, so he will just be going a pure carry tiny build. Now, we'll see if he's going to go right up to the Ags after this, or if he's even going to get a Yasha first. He's got the Blade of Alacrity, so not a whole lot to pick up from there. That usually, though, you see a Blade of Alacrity come out like that, you're going to see the Yasha, and we're going to see our Darkseer caught again, but not able to be run down by NWP. Now, Yamate is going to have to retreat here. Let's see if they want to re-engage. ROTK kind of gets caught up on the creeps, so not going to be able to charge back out. In the meantime, Ice moving under cover of Vendetta, getting in position near this Tier 1 mid, and he will be spotted out by the tower. Just eats a lot of free damage there. Not sure really what the plan was. That's going to prompt more movement from DK as they begin to move more heroes towards mid. That's going to be 3 ROTK. Q and X. At the top, though, Animage, he's just about worn a groove in this piece of territory, I'll tell you what. About here to here, he's basically just worn a hole in the ground. That's all the real estate he has occupied. Great creep equilibrium, has done nothing but free farm. And now on his way to the final piece of his Battle Fury, which is going to be the Voidstone. And Zenith, now this kind of worries me for Zenith, to be honest. This is not where I feel like that their strength is going to be. Tiny obviously wants his farm, needs his farm. But I don't like that they're now beginning to play a bit more passively. They were really getting the job done, carving up DK just by moving together, by crossing the river more frequently, by allowing Ice 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 to just be a sniper with those sunstrikes, and now just playing a bit more stable. This is how I feel like they can let this game get away from them. Not to say they will, but it's where I worry they might if they're not very, very careful. Q has completed his treads. Not a whole lot else to report. He's got 600 gold at the bank. Rubik still sitting on his basic starter items. The Animage should, yep, this will be his Battle Fury. That's going to be a 13-minute Battle Fury Midas. 13-minute Battle Fury is not bad in most circumstances, but to get a Midas up, then a Battle Fury in 13 minutes, pretty damn impressive. And now we can see Ice is going to go back under cover of Vendetta, look to find himself a target. Burning has managed to retreat, and that's, of course, thanks to this right here. The Tiny was smoked up as well, but spotted out, both of them, by that sentry ward. So now the response, X is going to be the bait. He's going to be engaged upon. Here comes the Sunstrike, and he just melts. And yeah, that was a little weird. He just kind of hung around. Thought they were going to try to engage off of that, but ROTK got moving in the wrong direction. And nobody to come help poor Rubik. 9-2, the kill lead certainly well in favor of Zenith right now. But again, Burning, the big liability. Can they keep him down? The gold is just about back to 0, and that's, of course, owed almost entirely to the fact that Zenith is just dominating them in terms of early game aggression. The experience is going the way of Zenith as well, to the tune of 2,000, moving to the Radiant side. And this Tier 1 going to be the next target. NWP has added the Yasha. Now, didn't really get to finish that thought, but you see the Blade of Alacrity, even though it does build into the Aghanim Scepter. You see that Blade of Alacrity come out first. It's almost always going to mean a Yasha's coming before the Ags, just because you get that Ag, you usually want to get the point booster, or you want to get your Ogre Club, something like that. Something that's going to add strength, survivability to your hero on your way to that Ags. And we can see Zenith quite happy. Now, this is what I was talking about. This is where I feel like they're going to be at an advantage if they're able to execute. And, of course, execution going to be the #1 factor. Ice 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 continues to stay in mid just because the biggest thing he can contribute at this point is going to be Forged Spirits, which he can manually walk up there, or the Sunstrike, which he doesn't need to be anywhere near to bring to bear. DK, though, looking to get back on the board in a big way and cut this lead down. Zenith will be forced out. Anticipating DK's movement, DK had 4 of their 5 up in that top lane. Burning continuing to just bounce around the map as we speak. In the meantime, XY and Ice 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 showing their faces on the other side of the river in mid. That tower taking a decent amount of damage from that Forged Spirit, but still standing, at least for the moment. A lot of movement out of both teams, and poor X gets smashed to death by a creep Mario style as the creep's tossed by Yamate. Burning, though, going to go ahead and look to split push. We will have a brief pause by Nick's Assassin, so gives me time once again to thank you guys for being here on One More Game TV 2. You're enjoying Phase 3 of the G-1 Champions League Asia Qualifiers. Zenith taking on DK. DK's first appearance here in 2013 in competitive Dota. Zenith, and I kind of touched on this briefly during the draft, and this is a shake the rust off match for DK. And I mean, obviously, it's not like DK, went to their summer houses and haven't played Dota in 3 months or 6 months or what have you. But it's different when you move into a competitive setting, when you know you're being broadcasted, when you know you've got casters talking about your plays, your mistakes, your decisions, so on and so forth. It's always a different feeling for these professional players. Zenith, in comparison to DK, has been in action for quite some time now. They're 8-0. Just in March. I mean, they have won 8 series in March alone, and DK hasn't played that many series going all the way back to around October of last year. So, and again, DK hasn't played at all in 2013. And Zenith is really on a streak, and it isn't being talked about enough, and I feel like it should be. Zenith, just in this month, is right now sitting at 11-0 in terms of games. I mean, series-wise, they've won 8 matchups. But they haven't dropped a game in March yet either. You have to go all the way back to a series against Neolution Orange back in, I want to say, February. That was the last time they lost a game. So this is a team that is very quietly just getting the job done. You know, a work-a-day, lunch pail kind of a team who's showing up and quietly winning everything they're invited to participate in. And you can't help but admire just how solid a performance they've been able to put on every time they've taken the field. DK, though, a team that following their disappointing finish in G League at the end of the year said, you know what, we're going to put on our serious faces in 2013. And not to say they weren't before, but I mean, you know, I'm paraphrasing very lightly Burning's own thoughts on the issue. He vowed that the team was going to perform better. You know, he said very unequivocally that he felt his team had not performed up to snuff. And given that this is his last year in competitive play, this is a very important match for them. It's gonna, I mean, obviously, if they win or they lose, it's still not gonna, have gigantic reverberations for the next 12 months or anything. But when you're coming back after a subpar performance in one of the bigger tournaments, and you vowed to improve, you vowed to take things to another level, and your captain and living legend is in his last go-around in competitive Dota leading up to the International 3, being able to set the right tone, being able to get off with the right amount of enthusiasm in your first series back in 2013, very important. And Zenith is a tough team to go up against for that. I mean, it's just a tough matchup for anyone. But for DK in particular, a team that has been out of commission for so long, to go up against a team who has probably played more Dota in the last 45 days than almost any team in China or Asia professionally. Maybe Orange is up there with them. But anyway, enough about that. We got two Tier 1s that are down, both on the side of DK. We see the Tier 1 mid as well as the Tier 1 top. Both have dropped. Tier 1 still standing in every lane but top for Zenith right now. That gold moving in Zenith's direction. We can see it's approaching 2,000. The experience is hovering right around 1,500, though. So DK certainly keeping it close, and that's okay for them. This is where Zenith has to begin to feel a little bit of urgency. They have to begin to feel like they are under the gun. Burning has a freaking Midas, okay? That's going to be an extra 100 GPM by the end of the game, added on to what is probably going to be an absurd amount of GPM to begin with. So you do not want this game to go a whole lot longer before you really start thinking about just taking control and trying to shut the door. Tiny has 1,200 gold in his inventory. They're going to get the last remaining Tier 1 on the map here in bottom, no doubt about it. And he's actually just tanking. There we go. Finally drops it. Ag certainly going to be the next choice. Now again, Tiny against an Anti-Mage in the ultra late game. It's really hard to call who's going to win that based on supporting staff, based on who has the advantage in items and what have you. But craggy exterior in and of itself makes Tiny a very difficult matchup for Anti-Mage. Tiny, if you're talking about 50, 60-minute game, 1 billion gold on both sides, and full inventories on carries, Tiny is as good a counter pick as you're ever going to see to an Anti-Mage. And that's something of which Burning has to be conscious as well. And as much as I'm talking about Zenith really needing to take control of this game and take map control in particular away from this guy right here, Burning. Burning is not going to be super comfortable going up against the late game Tiny if Tiny's farming well too. So both teams are going to be feeling a sense of urgency, should be feeling a sense of urgency, and should be looking for a way to slice this map open and take away any advantage they can from their opponents. Taking a look at DK's support inventory, we can see Mech is going to be complete momentarily here on our Darkseer. Most likely going to be an Axe coming out on QQQ. Don't mind that a bit. The single target impetus damage, a nice way to try to deal or at least reprise against the Nyx Assassin's single target DPS. Rubik's broke, not a whole lot to say about that. And the Forge Spirit's taking some anti-mage damage now. Meanwhile, in bottom, we can see, yep, it is going to be an Ags. And Yamate is going to have his Ag very quick. That is going to be up super soon. Like, he's going to drop this tower. Take the truth, he drops this tower, he's going to have it. So he's going to have a sub 20-minute Aghanim Scepter drums Yasha at this point. And that's pretty nutso, really. That is pretty absurd. Taking a look at Freedom, sitting on Tranks. He's got 1,700 gold in the bank, though. We'll see what he wants to pick up. Would not be surprised to see him just grab the majority of a mech coming up soon. Tinker's joined up with the push now, as has the Nyx Assassin. Tinker has max March in the Machines plus his laser, so Blink Dagger as well as Boots of Travel in his inventory, his mobility through the roof. And this is where they're going to start to look to capitalize on those factors I talked about before. Tinker's mobility in and of itself going to be impressive. The ability for Keeper of the Light to bounce around and just anticipate where Tiny is going to want to be there once they do separate to teleport him in. Looking at ROTK, he's got an Ogre Club in his inventory. We'll see what that's going to be on the way to. Number of items he could be looking to pick up with that. Ags wouldn't surprise me at all, but could also be even a BKB, depending on how much of an influence they feel he's going to be in that fight. That's something we haven't talked a whole lot about. He did max Call of the Wild, which I anticipated, just based on how much mobility DK was going to have to account for in their vision. But Inner Beast, his passive, going to be a big help to Anti-Mage in these big 5-on-5 team fights. Big help to everyone, but mostly to the Anti-Mage. Speaking of Anti-Mage, Burning nowhere near this. Not even going to be joining. He's added a Yasha to his inventory. Take a look at the GPM now. I mean, the net worth is really close from the Anti-Mage and the Tiny. No surprise there. 3 of the top 5 farmers on the board, though, belonging to Zenith. Yep, there's Tiny's axe done. He's swinging the big stick now. And no way they can fight at this stage. Just knowing that Tiny is really... I'm a little bit more worried about the Tiny than I am about the Anti-Mage. Tiny is at 21 minutes in and is almost like his inventory is filling up absurdly fast. He's got his Yasha, he's got his Ags, and he's got his drums. And Burning's doing a great job, but he can't split push. And I talked about this during the draft as well. He's not far away from having his Manta style done, so he'll be able to start fighting relatively soon. But because of the mobility of the Tinker, because of the mobility the Keeper of the Light grants them, he's not going to be able to split push confidently at all. Every time he gets near a tower anywhere on the map, he's going to be walking right into a March of the Machines just about the time he arrives, unless they pick the Tinker off. So a big part of what makes Anti-Mage such a strong carry and farmer, his split push capability, is now gone. We see the Sitar gone as well, courtesy of the Midas pick up on Ice Ice Ice. Ice 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 looks like he's going to be going for a Sheep Stick following his pickup of the Force Staff. And yeah, they're just beginning to take the towers very methodically. And this is one of those games that makes me feel like I kind of at least somewhat know what I'm talking about with Dota. So it's going just about as I anticipated. This was something that they were going to have to do. And they were kind of, I was worried they weren't going to do it as quickly as they should. But right now, I mean, Burning's farming, but his team is losing map control. His team is losing farm and experience by the handful. And we can see, I mean, look at the gold graph. 5,000 gold, now the advantage of Zenith. And that's with Burning farming the way he is. The experience is just about even, so they've got that going for them. Looking at the GPM, with the Midas, Burning is just sitting at 580. Tiny sitting at 533, and he's doing nothing but swinging a big old tree. So Burning is definitely feeling the effect of this. Having the attack speed, having the Manta-style illusions to help him farm, going to help a bunch. And yeah, I mean, I love what Zenith is doing here. It's not the most exciting game of Dota so far as kills goes. But they're just playing this extremely methodically. Now responding down to bottom as their wards did spot the movement of DK down along the Roche pit. This ward right here. And they left their Tiny alone up at top. And basically, if they wanted to jump Tiny, they'd have to come as everyone. Otherwise, they can't do anything here. Look at him chunk away at this tower. Absolutely chunking it. And that's going to be the last outer tier tower remaining. Now the net's going to catch him, though. Will he have help? He's going to spin the avalanche. Wall goes down. Should be the end of Yamate. So he does end up trading away a kill in exchange for the death of the last remaining outer tier tower. But with that tower down, and the importance of the tier 2 top in particular, is all of this territory that it serves as an anchor point for. This is the territory that Burning is going to want to spend his time in throughout these middle stages of the game, making sure he gets safe farm. And now the onus is on Zenith to take that away from him. And having no outer tier towers remaining, they're going to very much be able to do that so long as they make the right decisions, so long as they engage the right way. DK going to move on into the Roche pit. And Burning is hitting hard. He's hitting for about 200 damage, well over 200 damage a shot. And he's attacking very quickly as well with that Midas and the Manta. Now, they know this is going on. We see them moving in that direction. They need to get there, and they need to get there soon. They're going to catch the Darkseer. There's a mana burn. They're not able to keep the Aegis out of Burning's hands. And yeah, they just hung around way too long there. And that's a mistake that may end up costing them dearly. Because now their ability to team fight severely reduced, especially given the fact that Burning is at that point where he can fight confidently now. He has farmed remarkably well, sitting at 613 GPM. He's now beginning to leave the Tiny behind a little bit, and that's due almost entirely to that Midas pickup. But Zenith, not exactly light on items either. 9-3 the kill lead. The gold leveled off just short of 7,500 in favor of Zenith. The experience, though, is moving in favor of DK. Taking a look at our Enchantress. She picked up that point booster a while ago. Has yet to add anything else to her inventory, though. Tiny with 2,800 gold in the bank. We'll see if he wants to pick up a Hyperstone. Would not mind that one little bit. Get a Hyperstone on his way to an Assault Cuirass, perhaps. Tinker, on a way to a Sheepstick of his own, has his own Ultimate Orb. And that could end up being two, depending on what Ice. I mean, he has his own. He could do a number of things with it, but one can only imagine that's going to be the choice. He has enough for a Mystic Staff now. Up the top, Tinker doing what Tink does. And he's hanging around in the top half of the farmers on the map. I mean, given the start he had, the fact that he's bounced back and has 400 GPM now is really not bad at all. Nyx Assassin has added a gem to his inventory. They'll be looking to counter ward, take some vision advantage, but DK smoked up. Going to be using Burning as bait. And this may, they may just walk right into this. Ice is there. He's going to move forward. And now the Darkseer is revealed. They know what's going on. And here comes the immediate TP reaction. We've got one still hanging out in mid. That's Ice. He's got a TP. He needs to get there soon if they want to fight this out. And DK rattling their saber down here at bottom. Burning bails out. It's going to go ahead and head to mid. Ice continuing to just take some farm. ROTK is going to be spotted by Tiny. There's the roar. The avalanche, the double stun. And not going to be able to catch him out. Sunstrike will connect, does about a quarter of his health bar, but nothing to follow it up as he's able to rejoin with the remainder of his team. 26 minutes into this game. Haven't had a kill in quite some time. Last kill we saw was Tiny dying following the death of the Tier 2 top. Only one outer tier tower has been brought down by DK. That might change here. But all outer tier towers are now down for Zenith. Or down by Zenith. At Zenith's hands, I should say. So they don't commit to bringing down the tier 1 middle. Zenith, I feel like, really needs to get more active right now. Taking those outer tier towers down is of the biggest benefit when you use it to just exert a lot of influence on parts of the map you normally would not feel comfortable having access to. Instead, Burning really is not having any trouble farming. He's not coming under a lot of pressure. Yamate did pick up his Hyperstone. Assault Cuirass would seem to be the optimum choice at this stage. And if that Axe does come out on QQQ, it'll be coming out very late as he picked up a casual hood. Back to our Beastmaster. He is going to be going for an Axe of his own. Thought that might be the case when he added the Ogre Club. He's picked up a point booster now, so just tanking up, helping out his own mana pool. XY, just about to that Sheepstick now. Has his Mystic Staff and his Ultimate Orb. And those are going to be some very clutch items. Ice actually already has his. The ability to lock down that Anti-Mage of absolute paramount importance. And we see DK, or excuse me, Burning, did just spend his entire gold stack on a BKB, which makes a ton of sense. No reason not to do that. And, oh, they're going to catch him. There's the Sunstrike to follow it up. A lot of burst damage. The mech keeps him alive momentarily, though. Now they're going to go ahead and re-engage back onto the Darkseer. Burning can't fight too low. The Illuminate going to catch them as they try to retreat. A lot of damage done, but no deaths on the board. Burning benefited immensely by the mech coming out from this Darkseer. Darkseer saving his carry's life, and very important he doesn't die there. If Burning dies there, they basically just say go, and they rush the racks. No doubt about it. Burning would have had buyback, but even forcing him to use buyback at this stage of the game would have been huge. But as is, the kill score remains 9-3. Zenith has so many ways to abuse that Anti-Mage if they can get in a position. That was a great example there. Really solid play out of Ice. Got the Scythe of Ice off after using the Force Staff. Landed his Sunstrike dead on the money. Just not quite enough damage follow-up. And Burning, continuing to just farm, though. Has more than 100 GPM than anyone on the map. Has more than 200 GPM than almost everyone on the map. Only Tiny has it sub 100. Or sub 200, I should say. Tiny has, I'm going to guess, his Assault Cuirass on his way to him. And there it is. I'll tell you what, we're 30 minutes into this game, and we're beginning to see carries with entirely full inventory. It's been a while since I've seen a game like this. It's one thing to have one player on the map get a full inventory, but we're talking to Tiny, who at this point basically just needs to turn that Yasha into a Manta style. And outside of, I mean, then so long as he's going to want to save at least one spot for either an Aegis or a teleport, he'll be full. He'll have a full inventory. Burning's in the exact same boat. If he wants another item with an Aegis in his inventory, he has to sell his Midas. So we're talking 2 carries with GPM in excess of 500, in excess of 650 for Burning, that have yet to really flex their muscles, and that might be changing now. Zenith now going to move towards mid. There's Burning right at the lip of the river again. This is where they almost caught him before. There he is. He's looking for a target. No Avalanche. Now we're going to have the engagement down towards mid. Nope, never mind. Thought they were going to go for it. I heard an Impale spin. I'm not sure what they spent it on. But both teams make the war face at each other, then back up. Now we're beginning to see, hopefully, Zenith move into the enemy jungle, move on to the enemy side of the map. That Aegis has faded, so empty inventory slot for Burning, as well as a chance to take a Roche fight in just about 4 minutes for Zenith. And that might just be what it's going to be. It might just be that both teams are content to just turtle out another Roche fight, because at this point, both teams have advantages in their favor. Fighting in one static location would seem to favor Zenith because of the strength of March of the Machines, as well as the spam ability that comes out from Tinker. Invoker's entire skill set, much easier to run through if he's standing in one place the entire fight. Not to mention Illuminate. Up, here we go. And Burning jumped on immediately. What a beautiful, or excuse me, not Burning, Darkseer. Jumped on immediately. Poor Darkseer picked off. He's down for 44 seconds. And they're going to push right off of this. Here we go. Heading to the high ground. Burning with no Aegis has his 10-second BKB ready to roll. Yamate leading the way, chopping wood on the tower. We see the impetus damage coming out from... Oh, no! They got Burning! Can they catch him? There's the Avalanche to follow it up. There's the Roar, though. Locks down Yamate. Follow-up Impale from the low ground. No other follow-up. Alacrity's up on the Tiny, but he is going to eat a Mana Void. Burning, marching through all this, is going to end up dropping. Walked through March of the Machines and just lost all of his life, more or less, to that. And a really unfortunate pause. And if that was actually a disconnect that caused that out of the Animage... Now, he bought back. I mean, Animage just bought back, so he wasn't disconnected from the game. But it was a bizarre decision. It was an absolutely bizarre decision to charge out the way he did, walk through March of the Machines, eat all of that damage, then turn around and die. Tiny is still standing, but in no shape to fight. And in fact, he's just going to back out of this. But defending the base the way they did here is a big win for DK to begin with. Not a whole lot more to talk about. I mean, the gold very much in favor of Zenith at this stage. The experience is very close to 0 now. But the fact that they didn't even have their Darkseer, and they were able to hold the Tier 3 against Zenith, that's a big, big factor. That is a big, big deal. It's going to buy Burning some more time. Going to buy their team some more time to get up a couple of more items. ROTK, Craving, oh, actually has his Ags, so the Aghanim Scepter is complete now. The Enchantress wants her Scepter as well. She's about halfway to it, a little over halfway. So just being able to not lose right there, very much a win for DK. We can see, yep, we are going to stabilize. Tiny has gone back to the base to heal up, picking up another TP. Again, the next logical choice for him to make item-wise is just going to be to convert the Yasha straight up into a Manta style. Give him a little extra survivability. Give him a little extra agility as well. I mean, a little extra everything. Just because of the ultimate orb he'll have to pick up on the way to it. But if they can adequately take away the ancient stack as an example, they can do a good job of forcing Burning to not retreat into the jungle. Just keep the pressure on so he does not feel comfortable leaving his team's side. He's got 2,800 gold. And we'll see what he wants to get next. Could be on his way to a Basher. But again, one-on-one against Tiny, the strength of Craggy exterior is just so hard to deal with. And the way Craggy works as well, because you're actually stunned off of Craggy. in the middle of your attack animation, not afterwards. And here we go. He's just going to go up, take one shot. Ice, Ice, Ice. Right up on the high ground, too. Going to catch two with Deafening Blast. Here comes the Rock. X is going to drop. Ice, Ice, Ice still alive. There's a Vacuum and a Roar to follow it up. Anti-Mage going to town on Ice, Ice, Ice. He'll be cleaned up now, looking to charge back out. Freedom going to eat a lot of damage as well. Burning, doing his job. And the Tiny, nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found there. So they do manage to get a kill for a kill. Or they managed to get a kill, but they end up trading Ice, Ice, Ice away for Keeper of the Light. And Tiny just not there to help the team out. Now they're going to move out, and immediately Zenith is going to go right back for the tier 3 bottom. They're going to get this tower for free. There's no one here. Down it goes. And we're going to have another pause coming out of Enchantress. Looks like we're having some ping problems. Certainly don't want to see a game decided by that. But yeah, the majority of the team all went to the jungle. A miscalculation here out of DK. And we're going to see them try to TP back. They're going to lose their racks here. I honestly don't think that they can stop Yamate from chopping this racks down. And here we go. Yeah, look at it drop. It's down to half already. Down below half. They're going to use the glyph. And now everyone back and ready to fight, but they're in the middle of March of the Machines. There's a good vacuum caught to the wall, though. Miss Tiny. Tiny wasn't caught. He's got Alacrity on him. Oh, what a beautiful impale. Ice caught 3. 2 swipes from the tree, and the entire team is evaporated. Burning, gonna be Scythe of Ice down. Tinker keeping him locked down and on the ground, and that might be that. With the pushing power of the Tiny. One of the most beautiful impales I've ever seen from a Nyx assassin. He caught the 3 he had to catch. Caught everyone. A miscalculation on the part of the Darkseer. Unable to get Tiny into the wall. Oh, wow. Zenith. Zenith caught DK napping at the wheel. Moving back into the tier 3 after they all moved to the jump. Then everything in that last team fight went their way. Oh, my God. I talked about it during the draft. The fact that Nyx Assassin, known predominantly as a skirmisher, a hero who does well in small fights, not necessarily in big fights, but I had mentioned a well-placed impale can be all the difference. And we saw it right there. Lined everyone up perfectly for this gigantic Tiny, this ginormous Tiny, to bring it into this game in 35 minutes. An absolute farm fest, 22 kills on the board in a 35-minute game. But Zenith showing why they're one of the most feared teams going right now. Showing why they're a team that you absolutely cannot sleep on at any point, no matter what tournament you happen to be in. So very impressed with their decision making. So very impressed with their ability to execute their lineup. And I'll tell you what I think stands out the most too. There is a mental factor that comes into play when you have Burning on an anti-mage with a freaking Midas in his inventory. That is a lot of pressure to be under, because you know that any mistake you make, if you make a mistake and your carry is down for 45, 60 seconds, that is an extra 600 gold lead that they have picked up by virtue of nothing but the anti-mage. By virtue of nothing but the anti-mage being alive and your lead farmer being down. To say nothing of your supports. And to execute as tightly and as well as they did in the face of that, I think that takes balls, for lack of a better way to put it. Takes skill in this. Beautiful Game 1 win out of Zenith. DK making their return to Dota here in 2013. Not off to the best start, as they end up dropping a 17-5 Game 1 here in their first appearance in G1 Champions League. I'm BC. You're here on One More Game TV2. Hope you guys are enjoying the show. DK gonna look to turn this ship around, turn that donut into a breadstick, and force a Game 3. Zenith, though, thinking 2-0 sounds mighty good. We'll be right back with Game 2 of this best of 3 next.